The situation is dire, as a lunar fairy has killed all the warriors and is about to finish off the Sword Emperor, who is the last man alive. She acknowledges his strength as she said to him, "You are worthy of your title, but all that reputation of yours ends today." The Emperor recognizes his mistake, for he has let his guard down, but he isn't afraid to die because he was able to accomplish his mission. She launched a powerful attack, but the Emperor wasn't fazed because he was ready to die, and shouted, "Kill me." There was a huge blast from the attack. With a grin smile on her face, she looked down at the explosion caused by her attack, but she was surprised to see that the Sword Emperor was still alive and a strange man was standing in front of him. The man apologizes to the Emperor for being late. He then rushes to attack the fairy. She sees him closing in to strike and she asks, "Who are you?" And he replies, "I am the moon-splitting swordsman, and I am here to cut you, Luna Fairy." Then he used his family's special sword technique to cut her down with one move, thus finishing her off. And it was said that on that day, the heavens rained down 9 strands of sword energy. 6 years has passed, and we see a young boy being brutally abused by his stepmom who has hit him until he falls. She yelled at him for being so weak and asks him to get up. She asks him if he's ignoring the instructions she gave him to clean up the backyard thoroughly and make sure there is no leaves. The young boy with a bruised body replied, "You did tell me." She asks him if he is ignoring her because she is not his real mother, and he replies, "I am not." She asks him if he would have ignored if the instruction came from his mother who abandoned him after birth, and he replied, "No." This infuriates her, so she asks him if he would have ignored if the instruction came from his father, who has locked himself up in his room for 6 years and refused to come out, and he also replied saying no. This gets her more angry, so she asks him if that's all he has to say. She thinks he's trying to disrespect her. Then, she kicks him to the ground and starts beating him up, while her children watched from behind, laughing at him and mocking him saying, "He's so scared he can't even lift his head like a turtle." Only the oldest didn't seem happy about this. The Sword Emperor and his family, on their way to Weryong Manor. He notices that nothing had changed even after 6 years and is amazed by this. The Emperor's son is excited to finally meet his father's only sworn brother, whose name is Yon. The Emperor's daughter is also named Yon. The Empress inquires from her husband where her daughter Nangong Yon is. The Emperor replied that she was feeling a bit stuffy and went on top of the carriage. The Empress was frightened and quickly rushes to ask her to come down and tells her husband that he is the one spoiling her. "Let her be," says the Emperor, "it's nothing new for her." The Emperor's son also assures his mother not to worry about Nangong Yon, because, with the level of martial arts that Nangong Yon knows, she will be perfectly okay. The Emperor's son excitedly asks his father, "Is Yon so strong that even you?" The Sword Emperor acknowledges his strength. The Emperor replies that 6 years ago, the martial arts Yon used were certainly the most perfect sword arts under the heaven. The Emperor also said to his son, "If it weren't for Yon, I wouldn't be alive here today." Also stating that Yon's Heaven's sword technique is certainly able to match up to their Nangong clan's advanced techniques. The Emperor's son is astounded and wonders, if he is that strong, why haven't his martial arts been known to the world? The Emperor tells his son that it is because Yon is retired and didn't pass it down to anyone, and that it's best not to say anything that offends him. The Emperor continues and tells his son that Yon had 2 wives, the first and the second, but he was especially fond of the second wife. But unfortunately the second wife died after giving birth 6 years ago, and after that, he lost all meaning to live, and locked himself up in his second wife's room. The Emperor then tells his son that it is also why they are there. He wants to look for a way to get Yon out of that room somehow. He also tells his son that once they get to the manor, to act like he don't know anything about it and not mention anything about Yon's second wife. "Do you understand?" The Emperor's son replies, "Yes, I'll bear that in mind." Back at the manor, a warrior shouts at the stepmother of the kid being beaten, "Madam, Sir has stepped out of his room." The stepmother is envious that her husband left that room after hearing about the Nangong carriage horse entering town. The warrior also says that he is on his way to receive the Sword Emperor. The stepmother then cleans the blood stains on her hand as a result of beating her stepson. The woman becomes even more envious, thinking that her husband came out of the room at the mention of his sworn brother arrival after all these years. But no matter how much she had pleaded with him to come out, he always refused, despite abandoning his own flesh and blood for 6 years, and now he's making the effort to receive his sworn brother. The wicked stepmother then tells her stepson that he will finally be able to see what his father looks like, while also warning him not to appear in front of anyone with his filthy looks, and threatens him before leaving saying, "You know what will happen if you feel too comfortable thinking that I'm not watching you." He replied while shaking, "Yes, I know." She left with her children, saying, "Come on children, are you excited to meet your uncle?" While the boy barely standing also left. The wicked stepmother calmly pulls her oldest son's face and said, "My treasure Mubik," which he replies, "Yes mother." She proceeds to tell him that he has a very important task to do today. She tells him that he'll be meeting the Sword Emperor's daughter today and he's to make sure to be friendly and treat her kindly. You understand what I am saying, right? In a cunning manner, making sure he understands the true meaning of what she asked. "Yes mother, I'll bear that in mind," Mubik replied. They all head outside to receive the emperor and his family. The emperor, upon seeing his sworn brother Yon, shares his concern about how he looks. "Are you all right?" he asked. Yon tells him that he is too ashamed to meet him and apologizes for not looking for him after all these while. The emperor stops him and said, "I can't believe you are saying something like that. I was so surprised when I heard about you." Yon says, "It seems I've worried you because of my incompetence." The emperor tells him that it's alright now that they've met. He proceeds to introduce his family to Yon but is surprised to see that his daughter has disappeared again without anyone notice. He apologizes to Yon, and Yon smiles and says, "It's okay. She's at her playful age after all." The stepmother puts on a fake smile and says, "That's right, our fourth child hides from time to time and does not appear. Also darling, aren't you going to introduce me and our children?" Yon suspiciously looks at her and introduces his first wife Beekmiju and children. She then invites the guests to come inside the manor as they would have been tired from their journey. Before going in, she instructs Mubik to go look around the manor and search for Nangong Yon. Make sure he leaves a deep impression on her. With a cunning smile on her face, Juka is at the backyard kneeling with his hands up and wonders to himself when the guests are going to leave. With a hungry stomach, starts to feel dizzy. He tries not to sleep but eventually, he dozed off and fall to the ground. Few minutes later he heard some footsteps while sleeping and slowly opens his eye and sees a woman figure approaching him. He quickly kneels and begins to beg, shouting, I'm sorry, I dozed off without realizing. I'm sorry." Then he thought to himself, "I'm an idiot. I did something stupid and made first mother angry again. She won't forgive me this time." He raised his head up and was shocked to see someone strange. Surprised, he said, "No, that's not her. It's Nangong Yon staring at him." Inside the manor, the Sword Emperor proposed a marriage between the Weryong Manor and the Nangong clan. Beekmiju was excited to hear this, so she asked the Sword Emperor, "Do you mean it?" And he happily replied saying, "Of course. The Weryong Manor is more than worthy of becoming our in-laws." Beekmiju, still very excited, says, "Oh my wow, what a joyous occasion this is. This is great news for our children as well." The emperor then asks Yon what he thinks. Yon is really thankful for the offer, but thinks it'd be better if the children had a say in their marriage, and parents shouldn't have all the say in their children's marriage. The emperor was satisfied with Yon's response. Beekmiju isn't happy hearing this and thinks her husband doesn't help at all, while she has always worked hard for the family. "You might as well just tell them that you regret marrying me out of convenience." So she asked the emperor, "Don't you think our children will like each other?" The emperor, still joyful, says, "Yes, we would be meeting each other more so they will have many chance to get to know each other." Happy Beekmiju then asks if she could request one last favor. The emperor asks her to speak freely, which she then asks if the Nangong clan could give guidance to her son Mubik. The emperor and his wife were both stunned by this request. The empress asked what she meant by that. Laughing, the emperor expresses his thought on the request saying, "Doesn't the Yon clan have their own advanced techniques? Besides, this isn't something I can decide on." Yon suddenly speaks and asks for the same thing as well. "If that's not too inconvenient for you and the Nangong clan, I would like some help as well." The emperor was stunned by this request from Yon, but accepts and says, "But is this really okay for your eldest son not to inherit your 9 heaven sword technique?" Yon proceeds to tell him that their family martial arts aren't as difficult as the Nangong clans, and he's sure Mubik already mastered the 9 heaven sword technique. The emperor asks if he's lying and says, "I saw you using the 9 heaven sword technique move 6 years ago." Yon replies, "Actually, I'm unable to pass down that martial art in my current state. I'll tell you the details later in private. So when you go back to Wuding Mountain." As he was about to talk further, he started to cough blood and fell to the ground. The emperor shouts, "Yon, get a physician." "Hey, Yon, wake up," he exclaims. At Weryong Manor's backyard, Mubik is seen walking around in search of the emperor's daughter and wondering where she could be, when he heard a voice coming from behind a building and recognized that it's his younger sister's voice. So he ran towards where the voice was coming from and saw that his sister was with the emperor's son. So he bows his head to apologize to the emperor's son for his sister having bothered him. The emperor's son told him not to worry, that she's no bother, and asks his name. Mubik calmly replied, I'm Mubik. His sister then pulls the cloth asking him if he knows her name. Before he could answer, she quickly said, I'm Seolju. You mustn't forget that, okay? Mubik tried to stop his sister, and tells her to stop being rude, that it's impolite to ask someone that you just met whether they kill their enemies. Seolju replies, I'm being very polite here, and this isn't my first time meeting him. Besides, we are already friends. They both continued arguing. The emperor's son looks at them and wishes his sister was also a cheerful girl. Suddenly, Mubik realizes that his sister and himself have been arguing in front of the emperor's son. He forcefully bows his sister's head and he's to apologize to the emperor's son. The emperor's son says, it's okay, and it's a good thing that she's cheerful and bright. Mubik proceeds to ask him if he knows where his sister went, because he's looking for her so he can become friends with her. The emperor's son happily says, you want to befriend her. I'd be really grateful for that. I'm actually looking for her too. In that case, I can do the introductions since the two of you aren't familiar yet. Shall we look for her together? Mubik replied, yes, I'd like that. Oh right, I heard that she can't speak, is that true? The emperor's son replies, it's not that she can't speak. Before he could finish his statement, Seolju interrupts him, really? So what's it then? He replies, she's a little ill in her heart. I hope she'll get better after Mubik and you befriend her. Seolju then proceeds to tell him that she'll cure her, and he shouldn't worry. We are taken back to where the young boy was kneeling in front of the strange girl, and wondering who she is, and admiring her beauty. Suddenly he remembers that his stepmother told him that there would be important guests at their manor. He notices that the cloths and accessories the lady in front of him is putting on are so elegant, so she must be one of the guests. The boy starts to tremble in fear, as he also recalls that he was warned to stay out of sight from the guests. He tries to think of what to do, for his stepmother will definitely punish him. He tries to run, but the lady caught him by the shoulder and slammed him to the ground. The boy was terrified and starts to beg. I'm sorry. The lady stares at him and wonders what he is constantly apologizing for. He couldn't even react, even though I only pulled him a little. Did he not learn any martial arts? She realizes that the bruises all over his body don't seem to be the result from martial arts training, and it doesn't seem like he's been getting proper meals either. She notices his red hair, stating that it's identical to that of the moon-splitting swordsman, so he must be his child, and wonders why he's so afraid. As she leans towards him, he apologizes even more. I'm sorry. The boy is scared for his life, as the lady tries to lay her hand on his head. She realizes the moment she touched him, that the boy has never once received proper care. The lady, who's the daughter of the emperor, Nangong Yon, asks the boy, what's your name? He replies, Jiaka. Jiaka. Nangong Yon rubs his head and softly calls out his name, Jiaka. She proceeds to tell him that she'll protect him from now onwards. Tears starts to roll down the boy's eyes. Nangong wonders what she did to cause that. With joy in his heart, he began to cry profusely. Nangong now understands, so she tries to comfort him. Jiaka, still crying, Nangong hugs him and says to him, it's okay. For the first time in Jiaka's life, he experiences proper care. They both hugged each other for a while. Then Nangong stood up and stretched her hand towards Jiaka. As he held her hand, she grabbed him and they both ran to a small exit on the wall. She asks him to follow her as she goes first. He was still hesitant to go, then she offered her hand from the other side of the hole. He took her hand and the both fled the manor. Nangong Yon then took Jiaka to the town where there's lots of foods and people. Jiaka is stunned, for it's his first time in town. He looks at a food stall and Nangong Yon noticed him staring, and decided to get for both of them, which he devoured in an instant. She smiles at him while watching him eat. After eating, they were both walking in town when a warrior appeared behind them and stopped them. Jiaka got scared at the sight of the warrior, but Nangong holds his hand tight in a reassuring manner. Back at the manor, Yon wakes up and sees the emperor sitting beside him. I must have worried you, he said. The emperor replied, of course. Do you know how shocked I was? How could the moon-splitting swordsman be in this state? Yon feels embarrassed and said, I couldn't even prevent myself from fainting. The emperor stops him from talking and tells him to only focus on recovering, that he needs to get better for the sake of his clan and children. Yon proceeds to tell the emperor that his clan's advanced technique was passed down by a spirit. However, he can no longer see anything from the spirit and it is probably disappointed by how he is now and left him. Yon then tells the emperor that the day his wife died, he also died as well. and that she left a child who resembles him greatly. However, he never met the child, because he thinks he'll grow to hate him, even though he knows it's not the child's fault that his wife passed away, and says, "I'm truly pathetic of a man." The emperor cuts him off saying, "Cut that out. I'm not used to seeing such a weak you." Yon tries to sit upright and asks the emperor for one last favor. "I know I don't have the right to say this, but I hope you could take care of my children. They are all pitiful children, they grew up without their father. This is my last and final request." The emperor tells him to stop saying things like that, and asks him to lie down and not strain himself, but accepts his request saying, "All right." Outside the manor, the empress is concerned about her daughter's whereabouts, for it has gotten late already and Nangong-yeon is still nowhere to be found. Few minutes later some warriors arrive at the manor, escorting Nangong-yeon and Joka, whose hand she held tight. The empress was relieved that her daughter is back safe and unharmed. She sees the young boy beside her and asks who he was. Suddenly, Jaka's stepmother, who have been standing there the whole time, shouts Jaka, and rushes to meet Jaka, pretending to have been worried sick about him, asking him why he looks so filthy. She said, "Oh my goodness, why are you in this state? Are you hurt anywhere? Do you know how much it breaks my heart to see you like this?" She then turns to Nangong-yeon and said, "You must be Yeon. I've been worried sick as I haven't seen him the whole day. Thank you for finding him." Nangong-yeon gives a deadly look to Jaka's stepmother in response. "Yeon," the emperor's son shouts upon arriving the scene alongside Mubik and his younger sister. "Where have you been? I looked for you the whole day," and playfully says, "I thought you climbed onto the roof again." And he's surprised to see his sister holding Jaka's hand, because she barely relates with anyone and she's already holding this boy's hand, a boy she barely just met. Nangong-yeon turns to Mubik. He blushes, but he then notices that she's holding Jaka's hand, which makes him jealous. The empress sees that the children all seem tired and suggests that they all head inside. Jaka and Nangong-yeon get separated at this point, leaving Jaka alone with his stepmother, and he starts to tremble in fear again. The stepmother then begins to scold Jaka. "I'm sure I told you to keep yourself hidden. Do you want the whole world to know that I'm not your real mother?" Jaka replies, "I am sorry." The stepmother begins to wonder what is wrong with Nangong-yeon and why she continuously gave her the stink eye. On the 7th month of that year, Yeon Moryong passed away in his sleep. As soon as he died, Beek Miju summoned 20-odd warriors of her clan to fill up his absence. The Beek clan's warriors became known as the White Tiger Squad of Waryong Manor. Moreover, as Yeon Mubik had gone to the Nangong clan for training, Beek Miju had taken over as master of the Waryong Manor. At the Yeon Moryong's annex building, Beek Miju is seen searching for any martial arts scroll that her deceased husband might have left behind. Then a warrior comes in to tell her that they've searched every crook and cranny of Waryong Manor, but couldn't find any martial arts manual. She yells out of frustration, "That's impossible. I'm sure I heard that man mention something about an advanced technique," and starts throwing different items around. The warrior apologizes. Beek Miju then angrily asks the warrior to move everything related to Yeon Moryong into the warehouse, and she never wants to set eyes on them ever again. "Yes, madam. We'll take care of that right away." He rushes out and orders every warrior in the manor be gathered in front of the building right away. Before he could give them the order to start moving the items, Beek Miju says to him, "When you're done taking care of those items, lock that brat away as well. Do you get what I mean? Please spare me. I know I was wrong. Please let me go." Jaka shouted as he was being thrown in the warehouse, where all his father's items have been moved to. His body slams the ground, and the warrior tells him, "This is your room now, don't blame me for this. I've got to do this if I want to survive." Jaka pleads for help, but the warrior tells him that there's nothing he could do even if he continues pleading. The warrior says to Jaka, "That aside, your father's keepsakes will be with you. Consider this a way to honor your father's death," and shuts the door as Jaka continues to beg for help. Jaka is terrified of being all alone in the dark, and wonders how long he has to stay in there. It's the next day. Jaka is awakened by light from a very small opening in the warehouse. He sees a bowl of water and bread in front of the opening. Immediately he takes a bite off the bread. He realizes that it's really hard and doesn't taste good. Then he began to think of when he'll be able to eat good food again. At that moment, he spots a bright light coming from amongst his father's items. So, he drops the bread in. As he rushes over to where the light is emanating from, thinking to himself, "It's bright outside, so I shouldn't be scared." Upon getting there, he sees a cloth covering the source of light, so he removes it and discovers that it's just a dusty old mirror. So he decides to clean it. As he cleans it, the bright light suddenly appears again. He sees a reflection of himself. Gyaka says, "You have been abandoned too, huh?" The reflection frightens him, so he stumbles and falls to the ground, screaming for help. But the warrior in charge of guarding the warehouse didn't mind Gyaka's screaming. It's autumn already, and it's starting to get chilly. 2 months have passed and it's freezing with snow everywhere. The 2 warriors in charge of guarding the warehouse where Gyaka is imprisoned are out in the cold, complaining about the weather getting even colder. One of them seems concerned about Gyaka and asks the other if he thinks Gyaka is still alive, and it wouldn't be strange if he froze to death. Which the other replies, "He's alive. He's been screaming every now and then, hasn't he?" The concerned warrior asks the other if he's sure, and the other replies, "Yeah, the food we give him always disappears too." The concerned warrior then commends Gyaka for being so strong. "Wow, I guess he really does have the blood of a martial artist. I think I'd have frozen to death long ago though. He sure is a tough one." The other replies, "So what? His life will soon come to an end anyways. Look at how much they've reduced his food portions. Soon we'll have to clear his corpse." Gyaka sits alone in the freezing cold without any blanket or source of heat, while the reflection in the mirror tries to call for his attention. Gyaka tells it to just stay still and stop distracting him. "I'm no longer afraid of you, got it? Actually, it's more like I don't have any strength to be scared. I feel like I'm about to die from cold." The reflection in the mirror stops and stares at Gyaka for a while. The mirror reflection picks up a stick and begins to wave at Gyaka to get his attention. After that, it starts to move in a way that caught Gyaka's interest. Gyaka begins to think, why is it suddenly dancing? He looks away and says to himself, "Well, it's none of my business." I was pretty surprised at first, but it's not like it can get out of the mirror, so I'm not really afraid of it anymore. I'm sure it's acting that way because I'm not giving it any attention. He carefully watched the mirror reflection as it danced. As Gyaka watches, he realizes that those movements look kinda familiar. The 9 Heavens art. I remember now. I always watched my brothers train their martial arts. That's definitely the 9 Heavens arts. How does it know our clan's martial arts? If one uses the 9 Heavens arts properly, they'd be able to circulate their core energy and create yang energy. Creating and maintaining that energy is the first step of the 9 Heavens arts. That's right. If I remember correctly, my brothers were able to create warm air even in winter. Gyaka also picks up a stick and starts copying the movements of the mirror reflection. The mirror reflection gives Gyaka the stink eye, and Gyaka tells it not to worry about him, that his not following along costs he wants to. "At this rate I'll die anyways. I have no choice but to follow it." Gyaka thinks to himself, if this is truly the movements of the 9 Heavens art, then I'll be able to survive at least the cold. He falls to the ground, and the mirror reflection mocks him for falling. Time has passed, and Gyaka is starting to get a hang of its movements. Finally, Gyaka succeeds in learning the movement and he's proud of the progress he has made. Now he's happy that he is finally going to be able to survive the cold. "I don't feel cold anymore. As I follow the movements, warm air is created. And if I maintain this, I'll be able to survive another day without any problems." The mirror reflection calls to his attention and shows Gyaka a new special move. Gyaka, still excited from his accomplishment, casually tells the reflection that he doesn't need to do it to that extent. Gyaka tells the reflection, "It's not like I want to follow your movement to the dot. I just want it to become warm." He throws the stick away and says, "I no longer need to suffer anymore. And I no longer have to watch you acting all obnoxious either. Since that's useless now, should I just flip the mirror around?" The mirror reflection then starts performing some really advanced techniques, which caught Gyaka's attention. Gyaka thinks for a second and wonders if he wasn't being taught the 9 Heavens art this whole time. He yells at the reflection, "What are you doing? You think I'd be interested in that? I'm not interested in martial arts. You really think I'd follow those complicated and tough-looking movements?" The reflection stops and starts to act cheeky to make fun of Gyaka, just to spite him. Gyaka responds by copying its stance and says, "How dare you act cheeky? You think I can't do it now? I'll be able to do something like that in no time." Gyaka tried for days but was still unable to do it after so many attempts. Gyaka realizes that this is so hard, and very much harder than the movements he followed earlier on. And even if he manages to copy the movements somehow, there's no way he'll be able to produce the amount of yang energy that the reflection does. The reflection starts to make fun of Gyaka again, and this infuriates him. He gives up and says, "I don't care anymore. How on earth am I supposed to be able to follow something like that?" Gyaka thinks about it all and says, "It's making him angry. Why did I even try? It's useless. It really won't help at all." But he thinks it's really cool and he wants to do it just like the reflection does. And he thinks, why isn't it working for me? its movements, even though it's complicated and difficult. When I compare it to the 9 Heavens art that it showed me previously, there are definitely similar parts, but it's way harder. Gyaka continues to think to himself, is this a martial art that's even more advanced than the 9 Heavens arts? I've never seen my brothers doing these movements in their training before. But Gyaka is sure the movements are similar to his clan's martial arts. But why does it know about our clan's martial arts? Gyaka questions the mirror reflection. Hey, you're intentionally leaving something out right. I'm doing exactly as you, so why isn't it working for me? The reflection gives Gyaka a suspicious look, which confirms to Gyaka that it's intentionally leaving something out. Gyaka then tells it that it's so petty for doing that and say he just won't learn the movements if that's how the reflection wants to play. Gyaka tells the reflection that he just won't look at it anymore and proceeds to cover the mirror with a cloth. The reflection bends to look at Gyaka from underneath the cloth. Gyaka looks at it and asks, "What are you doing? Are you going to teach me?" The reflection responds with a nod. Gyaka asks, "Really? Don't you dare lie to me. I'll cover you up again if you do." The reflection points upwards, and symbols starts to appear on the mirror. Gyaka wonders what these symbols could mean. The symbols on the mirror translates to the true mirror of Jiyushin Fairy. At that instant, the 900 words that were within the mirror of Jiyushin Fairy appeared on top of the mirror. Even though the contents were profound and complicated, Gyaka felt like those words were flowing into his head, and he realized the martial art that he was following was the Heavenly Inquisitive Sword technique. He was abused his whole life in the Yon clan. He led an unfortunate life that was meant to die as he was imprisoned in the warehouse. But that misfortune helped him to gain a life-changing encounter with the Jiyushin Xuanu mirror. A child that people thought would die for sure began to change in a profound way. The secret manual of the 9 Heavens sword technique that wasn't passed because Yon Moryong had died was passed down slowly but surely. Time is fair to everyone. Ironically, because Yon Gyaka was locked up in a tiny warehouse, he was able to focus on training in the Inquisitive Sword technique. As time passed, Gyaka grew stronger by practicing the sword technique and meditation. 10 years flew by, and finally Yon Gyaka is able to do the exact same movements. A horse carriage arrives the manor. Mubik steps out, takes a deep breath and says, "It's been 10 years, huh?" His mother screams out of excitement, "Mubik, my son," as she rushes to welcome him. "You've come back as such a strange-looking young man. I've missed you so much." His siblings also come out to welcome him. Mubik greets his mother and tells her, "Mother, I've come back after finishing my training after 10 years. Beekmiju replies, "I'm so proud of you, my son. You did well. You've become so manly," and she hugs him out of excitement and says, "Now the Wariaug Manor will become the strongest clan in Loyang. No, the strongest clan in all of the Henan province. My gosh, I was too focused on you. Aren't they precious guests from the Nangong clan?" As she sees the emperor's son and daughter, she politely greets them and asks that they please excuse her manners, for she haven't seen her son in such a long time, and tells the emperor's son that he looks like he has become stronger in the past 10 years, and his name is truly known around in the Jianghu. She proceeds to greet the emperor's daughter. "Yon, you've really become unrecognizable. Everyone would simply look like a withered flower beside you." She invites them all inside to rest and eat, as they must have been tired from their journey. And she asks how their father was, and the emperor's son replies, "He is well and healthy." Beekmiju tells him that she is relieved to hear that. Nangong Yon storms off, and Mubik's mother asks her what she's looking for. Her brother tries to call her back and asks her how she could be so impolite. Mubik's mother tells him that it's okay, and she thinks that it seems like her illness hasn't been cured, though I'm very worried for her. The emperor's son scratches his head and tells her that his sister has actually gotten better now. Mubik's mother replies, "Wow, that's great to hear. I guess everyone's really tired. Go in quickly and rest." Mubik's mother rushes to tell one of the guards to alert every other guard and make sure no one lets Nangong Yon anywhere near the warehouse. She suspects that Nangong Yon must be looking for Gyaka, and Nangong Yon must be persistent, for she still remembers Gyaka. The warrior then tells her that he was wondering when would be a good time to tell her that the warehouse was too quiet, so he checked and couldn't find Gyaka in it. Mubik's mother angrily slams the warrior to the ground and asks him what he's talking about, and demands an explanation. One day ago, Gyaka is practicing the Heavenly Sword Inquisition technique, and finally, he succeeded in mastering the movement. Out of excitement, Gyaka tells the mirror reflection, "I finally did it perfectly. This movement was really difficult. You saw that too, right? What I just did was the perfect one." The mirror reflection applauds him. Gyaka went ahead to tell the mirror reflection that after he practiced the 900 words it showed him, he was able to get past all the parts where he was stuck at. and asks it to teach him the next thing. The mirror reflection smiles at him and pointed at the top of the warehouse. It appears that Gyaka's final move from the training was able to break a hole at the top of the warehouse. As Gyaka stares at the opening at the top of the warehouse, his training stick fell from his hand. To Yon Gyaka, who spent 10 whole years in the dark and shabby warehouse. Gyaka jumped off the ground to a pile of some of his father's belongings. The sky he had seen for the first time in 10 years is very beautiful. Gyaka looks out and feels the warm air around, but he's scared to go out, and asks the mirror reflection if he could go out. It smiles at him and nods to Gyaka. Gyaka goes out, and he's amazed by everything he's seeing. Gyaka says, "It's so pretty." The spirit in the mirror smiles as it watches Gyaka, and finally disappears from the mirror. Gyaka says to the spirit, "It's really pretty, come up here and look at it with me." He turns and sees that the spirit is no longer in the mirror and it's just an ordinary mirror now. Confused, he looks forward and thinks of what to do. Back at the present, the stepmother rushes to the warehouse to inspect it. She sees the hole in the ceiling and wonders if it was caused by a lightning strike. And still confused on how he got up there, one of the warriors asked her if he should send out a pursuit squad right now. The stepmother asks him why would they have to bother finding an ungrateful boy who ran away from the clan that fed him. She thinks that Gyaka is just a fool if he thinks things would be any different just because he got out. Because he's just someone with a 6-year-old mind in a grown-up body, who don't even know how to earn a living and survive. And soon he'll starve, get sick, and die alone. Back at the manor, in Gyaka's room, Mubik asks his mother if Gyaka really ran away from home. Mubik's mother replies, "Yes, that's right. I think he left home 3 days ago. I sent people to search around town for the last few days but they couldn't find him." But Mubik says Gyaka doesn't really have anywhere to go. Mubik's mother replies, "Yes, he must have been inspired after hearing that his elder brother was returning after becoming successful. You never really know what someone's thinking." Mubik replies, "Is that so?" Nangong Yon arrives. Mubik turns and notices her and asks her what she's doing here instead of going to the inn. Nangong Yon gives Mubik's mom a very scary look. Mubik's mom then tries to play it off and says, "Oh my dear niece. Have you come because you're worried about Gyaka? Don't worry too much. They say kids his age often run away from home." Nangong Yon gives her a very suspicious look. Mubik's mother proceeds to say that Gyaka only ran away 3 days ago. But Nangong Yon notices that the blanket and furniture don't have dust on them as if they have just been bought. Furthermore, contrary to the fact that the room seems to not have been managed well, there is absolutely no sign of human habitation. Mubik's mother then told Nangong Yon not to worry too much, that she and everyone at the Crouching Dragon estate are working hard to find Gyaka. But Nangong Yon storms off without uttering a word. Mubik calls her disciple sister, but she walks away without looking back. Mubik's mom is angry and asks him if Nangong Yon has always been so ill-mannered. And how much does Nangong Yon look down on the Crouching Dragon estate for her to act like that? Mubik is quiet for a while, then speaks. "Mother, is it really true that our youngest ran away from home? Or did something else happen? I've never seen disciple sister act that way without a reason." He proceeds to tell her that Lovely Mind Reader is the nickname given to his disciple sister, who is said to read people's mind with her flower-like face. And there's nothing disciple sister can't solve. Once she becomes interested in something, she always solves it. And there is even a saying that goes, "Even if you fool a ghost, you can't fool the Lovely Mind Reader." He proceeds to tell his mother that if Nangong is in a bad enough mood to cut both of them off, then there must be a reason. His mother then asks him, "Do you think this mother of yours could have killed that puny kid?" Mubik tells her that he doesn't think that. And if she had killed Gyaka, then Nangong Yon wouldn't have left just like that. But if something really bad happened to Gyaka, she interrupts him before he could finish what he has to say and tells him not to think too much about it. That Gyaka didn't live in the manor, but it's true that he ran away. Mubik replies, "Did you just say he didn't live here? Then just where?" Mubik's mother responds, "He hasn't seen his own father's face even once, so I graciously allowed him to stay with his father's belongings." Mubik is shocked to hear this, and rushes over to the warehouse. But he's surprised to see that Nangong Yon is already there, so he asks her how she was able to find the place. Nangong Yon responds, "Even though it is the most remote place in the Crouching Dragon estate, there were a lot of people guarding it as if there was something I shouldn't be seeing. But just by looking at this place, I understand her reasoning. A warehouse covered with the smell of filth and mold, the floor where that child must have slept wearing his old worn-out clothes. It looks as if a vicious little demon was imprisoned here in the Crouching Dragon estate." She proceeds to tell Mubik that she's going to inform her father about this. As she turns to leave the scene, she says, "Since you're my father's disciple, there shouldn't be any rumors spread, but I don't think the relationship between the Crouching Dragon estate and my family will be the same anymore. Just so you know, I will be returning with my brother. Nubik is not happy. Still standing in front of the warehouse, he thinks of what to do now that the relationship between him and his respected teacher, his disciple sister, has been ruined. But right now his family's estate has no other choice but to live fearing the future action of the Nangong clan. Jiaka roams about in town without any footwear, and is wowed by how much things have changed and is curious to know how long he has been in that warehouse. He thinks of a way out of town but is confused due to all the changes in town. Jiaka thinks, should I have just climbed the mountains and rub away? I just wanted to look around for a bit. While lost in thoughts, Jiaka bumps into a man. Jiaka immediately apologizes to the man and asks if he's alright. The man looks annoyed and calls Jiaka a punk and also tells him to look where he's going. Jiaka looks at the man and instantly identifies him as the warrior from the Crouching Dragon estate, who locked him up in the warehouse 10 years ago. Jiaka stutters, I'll be careful, then I'll get going. The warrior then asks Jiaka to wait, that he has seen his face somewhere before, and now he'll have to check his ID. Jiaka is scared that he might have been found out already and thinks of what to do on the spot. The warrior yells at Jiaka, asking him he didn't hear when he asked him to come. Jiaka regrets ever coming to town to explore and in fear of being locked up in the warehouse. He bolted away from the warrior, and the warrior yells, hey you punk, come back here. While running, Jiaka tries to remember where the gate used to be, and also tells himself that he can't allow himself to get caught again. Finally, Jiaka sees the exit gate and continues running towards it. While in his thoughts, I'm gonna run as far away as I can, so far that no one could ever find me. The warrior chased after Jiaka. I've never seen so a disrespectful brat before. He dares to run from a Crouching Dragon estate swordsman. The warrior yells at Jiaka, hey you brat, you're dead once I catch you. Jiaka looks back and sees that the man is fast and he's going to get caught at this rate, and be dragged in front of First Mother again, which terrifies him. The warrior yells from behind, last warning, kid. As Jiaka sprints towards the gate he thinks to himself, I never want to go back to that warehouse again. The gate is about to close but Jiaka thinks he can make it across on time and slip through. The warrior catches up with Jiaka and says, hey brat, did you really think you could run from me? Seeing you run away like this, I guess you really are guilty of something. As he's about to grab Jiaka, with determination in his heart to not get caught, Jiaka uses martial art to maneuver, and plunges towards the gate. The warrior becomes even more furious that Jiaka escaped his grasp and didn't notice that he was already almost under the heavy gates and shouts, how dare you use such a petty trick? Just as he was about to get hit by the gate, he looks up and shouts, but is surprised to see that Jiaka rushed and held the gate in place, saving the warrior, and asks him if he's alright and not hurt in any way. The warrior tells Jiaka that he's fine and is amazed at Jiaka's strength as because Jiaka is holding the gate with just one hand like it's nothing. Jiaka feels relieved that the warrior didn't get hurt and tells the warrior that he just didn't want to get caught. The warrior stutters, catch you. Who? Me? Of course not. I was only following behind you. Jiaka is relieved and exited, so he asks, really? You're not trying to catch me? The warrior responds, of course not. Jiaka then happily saves the warrior and says, hee, I guess I was mistaken. He says his goodbye wishes and runs off. The warrior is still shocked from what just happened and wonders if it was all just a dream. The warrior says, there's a saying in Gangho that goes, don't underestimate children, women and the elderly. It seems that saying was true. In the mountains, Jiaka is wandering in search of food because he haven't had anything to eat all day. With no idea on how to source for food, he spots a mushroom, and thinks it'll be edible because the color of the mushroom is pretty. So he ate it. Night falls, and Jiaka can no longer stand properly on his 2 feet. He starts to vomit and feels so much pain from his stomach. Jiaka is confused on what's happening to him. At this point he can no longer see a clear path, and the road started to look more and more wobbly. His head started to spin, and Jiaka is still trying to find a place to stay, but with all that's going with him, he worries because it's going to get even harder to see in the dark as the day gets darker, and thinks of what he'll do if a mountain beast appears. Jiaka feels so dizzy and falls to the ground as his body can no longer move. He tries his best not to fall asleep there but couldn't help it. The next morning, while Jiaka is still passed out from the mushroom poisoning, 2 men finds him laying half dead on the road and contemplates if they are to leave him there for dead opus or save his life. Eventually, they decide to take him in, as it's their first time coming across someone that's worse than them. One of them thinks it's a good choice, since it's all goodwill and sharing some food with him won't actually make them go bankrupt. And from his observation it looks like the boy previously begged. In Jiaka's dream, He saw a strange spirit and shouts, "Fairy." The spirit tells him stop blabbing nonsense. Gyaka wakes up and finds himself in a strange place. The man is shocked that Gyaka is completely fine and was even talking in his sleep, because when they rescued him, he was half dead. So the man asks him, where were you roaming around? Why is it that you were found collapsed in the mountain roads? If it weren't for us, you'd already be in the belly of those mountain beasts. Gyaka thanks the man but inquires as to where he is. The man tells Gyaka that he is in Mountain Wufeng hideout, and himself and the other men present as bandits. You should be able to tell that at least. Gyaka apologizes. One of them proceeds to tell Gyaka that all 6 of them are brothers-in-laws, and introduces himself as the second. The rest proceeds to introduce themselves. The patriarch introduces himself as Peng Yiran Cho, and tells Gyaka that since they saved his life, he would have to repay them little by little from now on. Gyaka is confused as to how he's going to repay, because he has no money nor means to pay. Hunim tells Gyaka, "Yeah, you idiot, I don't know if you've been begging in the outside world, but over here you have to sincerely learn and work in order to repay them. It's said that even animals repay you for your grace if you save their lives. You can't be lesser than animals." One of the bandits asks Hunim why he's urging Gyaka so much, then tells Hunim that it's enough and the boy only just gained consciousness, and offers Gyaka a piece of bread. "Now you must be hungry, fill your hunger with this first." Gyaka hesitantly refused the bread. "No, I'm good. I'm not hungry at all." Hunim tells Gyaka that he's lying because his stomach was rumbling even while he was sleeping. Gyaka says that's right, but he don't have any money. Hunignim asks him to eat, assuring him that no one will take any money from him. Gyaka still hesitantly refused, insisting that he really do not have anything to give them. Hunim starts to wonder why Gyaka talks as clumsy as a kid even though he looks about 15 or 16. So he asks the second if he thinks Gyaka is an actual idiot. The second assure him that even if that's the case then they can just give Gyaka some side chores. Hunim responds, but after unnecessarily giving him the work and he doesn't do it properly, then we might as well be the ones starving later. The second treplies, he seems like a good kid, so I think he'll do his work well. Hunim disagrees and say the boy doesn't even know to source food for himself, and the kid is just an idiot. And those who are used to begging have a habit of playing around all day, so they don't like to work, and it can't be helped. He picks Gyaka and drags him outside. The second say, "Here he goes again, our Hunim. Hunim, since you're doing it anyways, educate him properly." While Gyaka yells, "Why? What are you doing? Wait, let go of me." Hunim slams Gyaka to the ground. Gyaka, scared for his life, begs, "Spare me. I really don't have anything." Hunim asks Gyaka what he's doing, and tells him that he's not gonna kill him, and realizes that Gyaka is probably used to getting beat up and asks Gyaka how he plans to forage for wild vegetables in his condition. Gyaka is confused as it's his first hearing of wild vegetables, and asks why he would need it. Hunim responds, "What do you mean why? It'll prevent you from becoming food for the beasts. You won't have to think about starving if you join us." But Gyaka says he don't think he's cut out to be a bandit, and someone like him can't become a bandit. Hunim is him, "What nonsense is that?" Gyaka proceeds to tell Hunim that he doesn't have the strength, and he don't have anything he's good at. Hunignim yells at him, "I've never seen such a frustrating brat before. Are you going to reject the lifestyle I'm trying to teach you? All because you're scared." Hunim raises his voice even higher as he shot to Gyaka. "In this world, there are 2 kinds of people, the ones who takes from others and the who constantly lose things. Which side do you want to be?" Gyaka asks, "What do you mean?" Hunim yells even more, "I'm asking if you want to continue to live starving like this. Do you really want to continue living being called a retard and live with people ignoring you?" Gyaka pauses for a while and slowly says, "No, I don't want that. I don't want to be ignored anymore." Gyaka gets fired up as he continues to talk. "I don't want to lose anything to anyone. If I were to choose, I'd rather be someone who takes from others, instead of someone who always loses things." Hunim is excited to see Gyaka fired up and says, "Good. That mindset is enough. Look behind you. From the first peak on the left over there, the 5th peak here in front is part of our land. Vast, isn't?" Gyaka replies, "Yes." Hunim proceeds to tell Gyaka that they are the rulers of Mountain Wufeng, and nobody in the whole of Mountain Wufeng can ignore them, and tells Gyaka that if he becomes part of their family, he too will be a ruler as well. Hunim asks Gyaka, "What do you say? Sounds cool, right?" Gyaka replies, "Yes." Hunim shouts, "Ha, I knew you'd like it. You are now the 7th brother of the Mountain Wufeng. What's your name?" Gyaka replies, "Yon Juk Ha, that's my name." Hunim replies, "Juk Ha, huh, that's a good name. There's something you should keep in mind before joining our family. Listen carefully and memorize it." Hunim takes a very deep breath and shouts to the mountains, "Fuck yeah. We're the best. He looks at Gyaka and calls him youngest, asking his to say the words as well, so Gyaka shouted, we're the best. That moment, Yeon Juk-ha feels excited for the first time since he was born. The stepmother who always swore at him and his brothers who never cared, as well as the hellish warehouse. They all passed through his head. It felt like something in his heart that has hardened was cracking. As it fell piece by piece from his heart, it felt as if he was struck by lightning. From the top of his head to the soles of his feet, this new yearning for life woke the sleeping nine heavens Kai. And Juk-ha yells at the top of his voice, full of excitement and life, fuck yeah, we're the best. A shout that sounds like he was releasing everything that was piled up inside of him. Split the clouds and fog and all of Mountain Wufeng echoed. It was like the mark of a new beginning in Yeon Juk-ha's life. Hyunam is very much happy to have given Gyaka a purpose and says to him, you're a scrawny guy but your voice is excellent. It would be a shame to only give you house chores, so I'll pass on my martial arts to you when I have the chance. Juk-ha happily accepts, and Hyunam tells him that he'll first have to learn how to do chores inside the house by following the sixth eldest around, and proceeds to tell Juk-ha to at least do the chores properly, considering that his body is still very weak right now. Juk-ha responds, yes, Hyunam, I will give it my all. Hyunam is impressed that Juk-ha called him by his name instead of sir, and commends him on his fast adaptation. Thank you, Hyunam. Juk-ha replied. Like this, Juk-ha's mountain life had begun. He first learned how to survive. All thought Juk-ha was immature compared to normal people his age due to being locked up for 10 years. Thanks to the bandits of Mountain Wufeng who took him like a little brother, Yeon Juk-ha was quickly able to open his mind and adapt to his new life. His daily life was basically perfect. Of course, not every day was smooth. The level of their martial arts was low, since most of the Mountain Wufeng bandits were from common families, so they used to get both small and big injuries whenever they went hiking. However, the satisfaction from the little things in a day-to-day life, they lived and enjoyed each and every day. Although he was born to a well-known swordsman family in Loyang, Yeon Juk-ha, who lived a torturous life being abused due to being born to a concubine, ironically, only after becoming a bandit, felt happiness for the first time. Then one day, two men arrived the Wufeng hideout and all the bandit including Juk-ha came out to greet them bowing their heads. Hyunam mumbles to the second that this is annoying. They looked down on them and told them that he came to find a group of bandits but they all just a group of beggars. Bandit Union. Because it was a name created by the bandits to glorify themselves, it has been nothing but subject of ridicule for many years. Then one day, a monstrous man appeared and referred to himself as the Blade of the Bandit Union. Once his infamy spreads, the experts of the 7 sects and 2 schools proceeded to subjugate him. But not a single person succeeded. His fame and authority grew larger with each passing day, and he was soon called the Shattering Heavens Demon Lord, which led to his recognition as one of the 10 strongest experts. The experts of the Chaos sects, who were hiding in the shade of the other sects, 7 sects and 2 schools for a long time, fervently praised the Shattering Heavens Demon Lord. As a result, many experts of the Chaos sect in the martial world had come to visit him in order to join the Bandit Union. After accepting them all and becoming the head hideout leader, he made the Bandit Union unprecedentedly powerful in the history of the Murim. As the status of the Bandit Union grew, it was called dread of all bandits and martial artists of the Chaos sect. At the Wufeng hideout, Hyunam is begging the 2 men who came unannounced to accept them into the Bandit Union. Bandit Union Mountain Davy Hideout Vice Hideout Leader Black Masked Vagabond Yom Sang Cheol. Bandit Union Mountain Davy Hideout Vice Hideout Leader Poison-Eyed Blood Blade Lee Young-on. These 2 men came as scouts to recruit bandits into the Bandit Union, but they don't think the Mountain Wufeng bandit are worthy to even be called bandits, not to even think of letting them carry the Bandit Union flag. Poison-Eyed Blood Blade responds to Hyunam's request to join the Bandit Union. Do you really think bunch of ragtags with only about 10 people have the qualification to carry the Bandit Union flag? Hyunam replies and tells him that he can gather the remaining 3 people within a month. The vice leader yells at him, what do you mean by 3 people? And points at Juk-ha and proceeds to say, that brat is just a kid, you'd have to gather at least 4. Hyunam and the second tried to play it off by saying, he may look like that but he's quite useful. He does the choirs really well. The vice leader tells them that they are both idiots, that he meant that they would need a minimum of 10 members who can act as combat force. And it's a minimum of 10 people, but that's far too lacking to be truthfully speaking. Are you guys even aware of how big the merchant groups are around this area? Juk-ha wonders who that guy is to be speaking to Hyunam like that. The vice leader proceeds to tell the Wufeng bandits that even the guards of the merchant groups alone would surpass 10 people, never mind It's fine, I'm the retard for coming all the way here, let's just say that this never happened. The second vice tells him to hold on so they could talk briefly about the decision. They whispered to themselves, poison-eyed, you want me to accept them? Vagabond, yes that's right. Currently we've only mobilized one mountain hideout, and we don't have much time. Half a month later the head hideout leader will be checking. Aren't you aware of what will happen if we don't meet the quota? Poison-eyed Bloodblade replies, it didn't make sense to increase the mountain hideout by twofold, to begin with. Vagabond, I know that as well. Poison-eyed, but if the fact that we've accepted these bunch of ragtags gets revealed, then we would be dead regardless. Vagabond replies, there's no need to worry. Didn't you just say the size of the merchant groups around this area is huge? Just as you've said, the reason why there wasn't any mountain hideout around the Henan province is that large merchant groups were dividing power here. Maintaining the mountain hideout here would be difficult even for us, the mountain Debbie hideout. They'll be devoured and will disappear due to the merchant groups anyway. Where would the evidence of these guys living here be? Poison-eyed Bloodblade, I see. Vagabond, all we need to do is just fill the quota. The two vice leaders of the Debbie bandits then looks at the Wufeng bandits and accepts them as members of the bandit union, which leaves shock on Hyungnam's face, because he wasn't expecting to be accepted into the bandit union. However, Hyungnam must gather 10 members before winter. Poison-eyed Bloodblade proceeds to tell them that they must not tarnish the dignity of the bandit union by running away from nearby merchant groups with your tails tucked between your legs. Hyungnam replies out of excitement, I'll keep that in mind, thank Yao. The mountain Wufeng bandits started to celebrate without knowing anything. It's because most merchant groups paid the passage fee by raising the flags of the bandit union. But the two experts of the Mountain Debbie hideout who know of the strength of the nearby merchant groups had expected the Mountain Wufeng hideout to disappear before 2 months have passed. However, these expectations were way off. The Mountain Wufeng hideout members prepared to go on their first hiking, operating as the Bandits Union. They were all excited as they left. The sixth calls Jukha Youngin and tells him that he will have to properly hang the laundry, and not to forget to do the dishes. Jukha watches as they depart and thinks to himself, I'm tired of doing chores though. I wish I could follow them on their mountain travels too. But remembers Hyungnam telling him, you idiot. Do you know how important it is for household chores to be properly done? If we're going around with empty stomach, then all of the heroes and champions of the world will be laughing at us. Jukha says to himself, I can't let my Hyungnam be disregarded like that. That's right, I'm doing an important job. But Jukha still wishes he could go with them. 1 month of living in the hideout. 2 months later. 3 months later. Jukha sits all by himself as all the chores has been instantly, because he's gotten used to doing chores. He thinks of what to do with his time as he waits for the group to come back. He remembers that he hasn't practiced any of what he learned in the storage room since he got out. So he decides to practice and prepare in advance for the time when he will be able to join his sworn brothers on their travels, in order to repay their favor, and promises himself that one day, he'll definitely be of help to his sworn brothers. Hyungnam asks everyone to gather and says, these are the people who have volunteered to join the Mountain Wufeng hideout as we accept these 3 as our new family member. I'd like to make an announcement. Until now, our mountain hideout had sworn brotherhood with everyone. However, sworn brothers cannot just expand every time. From now on, all members joining will be divided by the order of recruitment. Now, if you understood what I said, introduce yourselves. One amongst the 3 steps forward and introduces himself as Chug-san, and says that he ran away from the crime of hitting the son of the county magistrate. He followed Gi-duk. Gi-duk then steps forward and introduced himself and that he's friends with Chul-san and he joined in order to lessen the burden on his family. The third person is a lady who introduces herself as Han Ki-yeon. She says she's 19 years old and her father had sold her to the Paler in Babong County, but she ran away from there. And after returning home, they kept telling her to go back, so she decided that the mountain life would be better than being a courtesan, and asks that the Wufeng clan take good care of her. The second rubs Jukha's head and tells him that now that he has siblings, he won't have to worry about chores anymore. The 6th eldest tells Jukha that he'll now be able to join them in the mountain travels as well, and states that he knows Jukha has prancing swordsmanship in the backyards recently. So he asked, you wanted to go on the mountain travels with us, right? Jukha excitedly replies, yes, and is excited that he can finally be able to accompany them on their travels. Hyungnam proceeds to tell the new recruit that unless they have exceptional talent, their ranks are determined by the order of becoming a member of the mountain hideout. Therefore, since Chul-san is 3 months older than Go-duk, Chul-san is the 8th, Gi-duk is the 9th, and Chai-yen is the youngest. and asked if anyone has any objections. Chul-san wasn't comfortable with being below Jek-ha, so he confirms from Hyunam if he can move up the ranks by having good fighting talent. Hyunam replies, "Of course, we are the bandit union. Anyone who's stronger becomes the Hyunam no matter what. Are you somewhat good at fighting?" Chul-san replies, telling Hyunam that he has had the opportunity of attending military offices for 3 years. Hyunam then asked him to choose who he doesn't want to be below, and if he defeats whoever he chooses then he'll be raised to the rank of the person he defeats. Chul-san chooses Jek-ha as his opponent and says it's strange for him to consider Jek-ha as his elder. Hyunam uses Jek-ha if he's going to maintain his rank by fighting Chum-san, or just accept to become the younger brother to Chul-san. Jek-ha considers the situation and thinks, if I avoid this fight here, I may not be able to join them on the mountain travels. But Jek-ha is determined to go on the mountain trailers, so he chooses to fight. Both Hyunam and the second are shocked that Jek-ha has actually chosen to fight, and ask Jek-ha if he's going to be okay, because it's obvious that Chug-san has had some combat experience. Hyunam then tell the second to leave Jek-ha alone as he thinks this is going to be interesting. So he announces, "Now, the two of you will fight, and the loser will become the younger brother unconditionally." Chul-san tells Jek-ha that he won't go easy on him in a fight. Jek-ha replies, "Enough with the nonsense." Two of the sworn brothers heard Jek-ha and smiled because "enough with the nonsense" is a phrase commonly used by the Hyunam, and they are proud that the boy is not scared at all. Chul-san is pissed at Jek-ha acting so cocky but doesn't mind right now because he thinks that if he can just become sworn brothers by defeating Jek-ha then that's a piece of cake. He yells as he plunges forward, "I'm sorry, but you're going to have to be defeated with this one strike." Jek-ha easily dodges his attack, and with a swift move strikes Chul-san as though he was wielding a blade, but didn't land a hit. Chul-san is stunned. The movement is so fast, Chul-san couldn't see what just happened. Jek-ha quickly realizes that he's fighting without a weapon. Then he quickly strikes Jek-ha again, shouting, "You surprised me, you little brat." He lands a heavy punch to Jeok's face. Jek-ha is on the ground bruised from the punch and thinks of how he's going to fight now that he has no weapon, because he didn't learn anything like that in the storage room. The second is worried and asks Hyunam if they should stop Jek-ha, because it looks like he hasn't fought a single time. Chul-san continues to pound Jek-ha, and Jek-ha gets frustrated and yells, "Just why? Why am I getting hit by fists like that?" Out of frustration lunges an uppercut to Chul-san's nose. With a bleeding nose, Chul-san gets mad as it looks like Jek-ha is really trying to embarrass him, and slams Jek-ha to the ground with a heavy punch, telling him to stay down if he doesn't want to be heavily injured. Then he should just stay down. Jek-ha yells back at him, "No, I'm going to win." Chul-san tells Jek-ha that he's just all talk and a small brat and lands a finishing blow. Chul-san feels so proud after knocking Jeoka out. While Jek-ha lays down knocked out of the ground, Chul-san looks at him and says, "I did warn you to just stay down. You brought this onto yourself." And faces Hyunam, "You saw that right. Now I'm the seventh." "Who said that?" Jek-ha says, shocking everyone. "It's not over yet. Never. I'll never give you that position. Bring it on," he says as he stands back on his feet. "Let's do it until the end. Let's see this to the end. Come at me." "What are you doing? Come at me." Chul-san is surprised to see Jek-ha standing after taking those hits, because even most well-trained men end up at the doctors after taking his punches, and still wonders how Jek-ha is fine because he took numerous hits directly. While Chul-san is just standing still thinking, Hyunam asks him what he's doing. "Aren't you going to continue? If you've lost the will to fight, is it okay if I take it as you giving up?" Chul-san feels humiliated and tells Hyunam not to regret this cause he might end up just killing the kid, as he runs off with full strength to strike Jek-ha. Jek-ha looks unfazed as he prepares for his counter-attack. He acquired an exceptional martial arts, 9 Heaven Sword concept, but he still had no idea how to utilize that strength properly. Because of that, he hadn't realized that he was strong. His will to travel to the mountains, and his desire to win, were enough to unlock the 9 heavens Kai Jek-ha had gathered while locked away for 10 years. Jek-ha decides to think of his fist as a blade. And this, Chul-san can't believe his eyes and wonders if he's seeing things. Jek-ha delivers a very fast and powerful punch to Chul-san's gut, which makes him cough out blood and pass out while standing. But Jek-ha didn't realize this and thinks that the hit didn't work how he wanted, and it probably isn't working cause it's not a sword, as he is about to hit him the second time. Chul-san falls to the ground, passed out cold. This makes Jeoka seem confused and happy at the same time. The second was about telling Hyunam to stop Jek-ha, but everyone just sees Chul-san fall to the ground. Everyone is amazed, because Jek-ha's move was so fast, no one was able to see what happened. And when the second asks Hyunam what happened, He says, from what I saw, it looked like he just suddenly collapsed after running, and wonders if Chul-san have some sort of chronic illness, because Chul-san is completely out. One of the sworn brothers says, I mean that could have ended up like that because Juk-ha hit him right. Then one of the sworn bro, I don't know man. I couldn't see it because you were talking to me. Hunim smiles and cuts them all from arguing and says, does it matter? And announces that the victor of the rank match has been decided. Rank 7 of the mountain hideouts is still Yeon Juk-ha. After the fight, Juk-ha is then presented with a weapon by the second eldest, who tells Juk-ha that Hunim wants him to have it because he was impressed by his fight. The second also informs Juk-ha that he can also join the trips to the mountain starting tomorrow. Juk-ha excitedly thanks him and promises to work hard. The second clears his throat and tells Gyaka to hold his horses and says, it's good to be full of spirit, but fistfights are completely different. If you let your desire consume you, you'll be cut down by a blade before you know it. You were only able to win because it was a fist fight, but you would have died over a dozen times if it were a sword fight. But Juk-ha mutters, I could have won easily if it was a sword fight. The second shouts, silence. I'll teach you my exorcism sword technique. Pay attention. You know I ate the temple food when I was young, right? So even if I do it all, it won't take longer than 3 seconds each. But still, be hard for you since it's your first time learning a sword technique. Yes, older brother, Juk-ha exclaimed. Pung Hunim sees the two practicing and says, it seems Tak has also taken a liking to our youngest. The exorcism technique was something he never taught, even when we begged. One of the other brothers seems a bit worried about Juk-ha going with them on the mountain trip starting tomorrow. Pung Hunim tells him that it's going to be fine and things will be over once they take on the name of Bandit Union and it's time to say goodbye to the past when they fought to death, and assures him that nothing's going to happen.
The next day, we see a merchant and his troops passing by. While being escorted by some warriors and a skilled martial artist, the merchant seems very worried and says, it's ominous, very ominous, I haven't had such a bad sleep in a while. So he called the martial artist, Great Brother Kang. I can't help but worry. My gut feeling is usually spot on. Nothing's going to happen right. Kang laughs and asks, are you acting that way because of the rumors of some petty thieves having appeared in Mountain Wufeng? Don't worry, even sea dragons from the bottom of the towers won't be able to bother you if you're traveling with me. The merchant still seems worried and says, that should be the case, right? I'm relieved to have you by my side, but before the merchant could finish what he has to say, an arrow is shot at him, which Kang catches without breaking a sweat. Now the merchant is scared to his pants. Kang don't seem impressed and says, they don't have any manners, eh? He walks forward as Wufeng bandits appears and shouts, this area belongs to the Mountain Wufeng hideout of the Bandit Union. Kang doesn't believe that they are from the Bandit Union having less than 10 members, so he mocks them and laughs saying, it seems our man's merchant group has been greatly underestimated, and now we are being threatened by these petty thieves. He laughs even harder and asks them to say something that makes sense. Pung Hunim says, this bastard sound like he wants to taste another arrow. But Tak reminds him that the guy just caught their first arrow with his bare hands. Pung Hunim angrily says, then we can shoot multiple arrows at once. Hey, merchant group bastards, you seem to be acting out just because you have numbers. I'll make sure you understand what happens when you make fun of us in Mountain Wufeng. Furious, Hunim orders his guys to shoot. Kang gives a cheeky smile and says, how pathetic. This is why I despise low-level thief bastards, and single-handedly cuts down all arrows that is being fired at him in the merchant group. The Wufeng hideout members all froze in fear, and wonders how possible it is that all those arrows were deflected by just one sword. At that moment, Pung Hunim realizes that they are fucked, and that Kang is an expert martial artist. Kang gets so furious and calls them bastards who are worse than parasites. You'll all die by my Kang Mudiok's hands, and orders the guards to get rid of them. Pung Hunim, frightened, tells everyone to snap out of it, that they'll all die anyway if they show the guards their backs. Then what do we do? They asked. Hunim informs them to run while he draws the guards' attention. But before he could finish his statement, Juk-ha steps forward, but everyone is scared for his life and tries to call him back, but he ignores them and stands in front of everyone. Kang laughs really hard at the sight of Juk-ha and says, you savage bastards, are you trying to run by using this kid as a shield? And also says, hey you pathetic bastards, you think that snot-nosed brat can give you some time. Juk-ha don't seem to care what Kang says and says, Ajasi, you're in trouble now. With a killer look on his face, Kang replies, what? Are you in your right mind? You're the ones in trouble, brat. Juk-ha responds, this is what our elder brother said, in Mountain Wufeng, no one dare laugh at us. Both Tak and Hunim thinks Juk-ha has gone mad, and are both thinking of stopping him before he provokes Kang further. Kang is flabbergasted, and asks, young ones, should I say they're fearless, or that they're stupid? So he shouts, hey, kid, Kang Mudiak of the merchant group will not go easy on you because you're a child. If you repent of your mistakes, I can still let you live. Juka responds, you're full of crap. You've got quite the mouth for a man about to get beaten to death. Tak begins to blame Hyunam for Juaka's behavior. Look at the mess you've made, teaching the kid strange things. Hyunam responds saying that he had no idea things would turn out this way. Kang gets really angry, and angrily shouts, this brat who's still wet behind the ears. You're the one who asked for it. He runs towards Juka, and plunges into the air in a striking position. Launches a swift slash, and to everyone present, it seems like Jukha didn't move, so Hyunam shouts, Jukha. But in reality, Jioka's movement was so fast, no one could see that he moved away right before the blade could touch him. Kang lands on the ground after his strike, confused and shocked. Kang sees that his sword has been cut in two. Everyone also sees this and they are all shocked and confused as well. Kang's mind is all over the place as he also wonders what just happened. Didn't the attack follow through? Did he dodge right before the sword touched him? There's no way. It would be a tough feat for even the zenith of experts. On top of that, he couldn't see Jaka's sword move. What's wrong, Ajasi? If you're done, is it my turn now? Jukha says with a killer smile on his face. Kang shouts, wait. I'll go and switch up my weapon, so please wait. With a confused face, Jukha says, you want to do that? Then bring a tough one this time. The last one was weak, so I almost sliced your neck along with it. After you switch out, I'll just cut your sword. Kang is scared after listening to what Jukha said, because he thinks Jukha's sword wasn't even close enough to reach him, but notices the little cut on his neck. Kang kneels down immediately, bow down, begging Jukha for forgiveness. He says, I'm sorry. I committed a sin worthy of death. I will pay the transit fee, so please just spare my life. And mutters to himself, he's a monster. Does it make sense for one so young to reach the level where they can use sword aura? I've never seen or heard anything like this. Jukha stares clueless and smiles as he watches Kang beg. And so he says, fine, I'll take a generous transit fee, not a problem in the slightest. The entire Wufeng bandits are stunned. On their way back to the hideout, Hyunam is still shocked from what happened back there, so he asks Jukha how he did what he did back there. Jukha smiles and asks if it's about how he cut the sword. Hyunam affirms, yeah, where did you learn those techniques? Jukha responds and says that it's the exorcism sword technique that the second brother taught him a few days ago. Hyunam is shocked to hear this because his heavenly unwavering sword technique and the second's exorcism sword technique are both just third-rate sword techniques. But Jukha was able to cut the sword of the lightning sword Kang Mudiak with just those sword techniques, and wonders if it's actually possible. So he playfully asked Jukha to show him a demonstration of the exorcism sword technique he learned. Jukha replies, of course, elder brother. At Mountain Wufeng hideout, everyone watches as Jukha demonstrates the moves. The lady that joined last watches him and is really amazed by his moves. Step by step, he demonstrates it all. It's all beautiful to watch, and his final swing is powerful enough to cut a tree in two. So he says, that's all. After a moment of glare from everyone, they all starts running towards Jukha and celebrating him. Awesome, you're amazing. Youngest, is this really Tak's technique? Teach me too. Chul-san apologizes for calling Jukha too easy on the day he first met him. The 10th, which is the lady, also comes to praise him. That was so cool. How did you do that? You're very, very amazing. Can you also teach me later? Shy Jukha tells her that it's not really that amazing. Hyunam asks Tak if the exorcism sword technique was always like that. Tak responds, it just seems that Jukha is the amazing one here, brother. Hyunam thinks, what exactly is that guy? Jukha smiles.
This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.